What are the most difficult Pokemon cards to grade from the Wizards of the Coast era? How's it going, everyone? It is Joe here, and I have been reaping through a ton of data recently. PSA pop reports have been going crazy recently because the mania around grading over the last couple of years really have changed the pop reports quite significantly. Of course, BGS and CGC are also viable grading companies, but PSA is still pretty much the gold standard for the majority of collectors, so hopefully should give us the best data here. I'm going to be looking at mint graded cards. That means the PSA 9 and PSA 10 pop reports, and then we are going to look at the percentage of these cards which are hitting that 10 grade in comparison to their 9 counterparts. This really should give us a good indicator whether, if we were going to open a booster pack and pull this exact card, pretty much what our chances are of getting that PSA 10 grade straight out the booster pack. Now, of course, there will be PSA 9s in the pop report which have been in binders and whatnot, but really looking at total pop reports don't give us the full picture, because if you look at something like a Charizard, then you take the PSA 10 report and compare it to all of the grades rather than just the 9 grade, it would show a much lower PSA 10 proportion. But that just shows you that people like Charizard and people will, sell a kidney for a PSA 5, let alone the 10 copies. So we're focusing just on the mint grades, which should give us the best indicator possible for how cards will look straight out of a booster pack. This top 6 list is not going to be simply the 6 lowest population cards. I can rattle those off real quick if you want to, and there will be some overlap between these. This is actually going to be the lowest percent chance that you will be able to get this in that PSA 10. So just to be clear here, we are looking at all of the Wizards of the Coast era. That starts with first edition base set, and we are working our way through to the end of the E series with Skyridge. I have also included the Legendary Collection as well as base set 2 here. We have also thrown in Shadowless and Unlimited base set because we have a good amount of data to go off of these cards, but I haven't gone for things like Jungle Unlimited or anything like that because the pop report hasn't really fleshed out just yet, and collectors haven't been looking for unlimited copies for the most part. More people care about the first editions. With all that said and done, let's jump into our number 6 slot, and that is going to be an infamous one. Neo Genesis First Edition Typhlosion, number 17, of course. This card is played with a number of issues. You actually can get this card with a red ink dot above the Neo Genesis logo, but that's not one of the reasons why it gets docked down to that 9 grade so often. It's more often than not thanks to the surface scratches that this card it suffers with so often. There's a ton of flowing lava, and very often out of the booster pack, it's going to have surface scratches all over it. Personally, I've pulled a Typhlosion from a Neo Genesis First Edition pack many years ago now, and mine was immediately a PSA 8, and that was a pack fresh copy. So that tells you, no salt by the way, that tells you that this is a pretty difficult card to get. Neo Genesis in general is one of those sets that has an average lower PSA 10 ratio. It's only a 13 or so percent to try and get any card in PSA 10 from Neo Genesis, and Typhlosion is one of the most difficult cards to get out of this set. Not the most difficult one from Neo Genesis First Edition, I'll have you know, but it is good enough to get on this list. There are only 11 PSA 10s in the pop report, and it has a percentage of 9 to 10s as 5.67. Sticking with the Neo sets, we are going over to Neo Revelation, where we have our 5th and 4th place slots, with just a 0.1% difference in their percentages here. First of all, we have the first holographic of the set, Ampharos. Ampharos is a very difficult holo to get in PSA 10. There are only 8 of them in the pop report as of recording, and it has a 5.3% chance compared to that 9%. So I think one of the main things holding back Ampharos is that it has a light holographic on the card, so it's very easy to show up surface scratches. You'll see for a number of these cards on this list, it's going to be some familiar, whether it's going to be either silver holographic or light yellow holographic in the case of the Ampharos here. So it's just a very difficult card to grade because it's so easy to show up these surface scratches, and any imperfections really do stand out quite clearly. I think that's a pattern that you see across lots of Pokemon cards and lots of different sets. Oftentimes it's like colorless types with silver holographics, which are more often than not a lower ratio than the other Pokemon within that set. Neo Revelation is very similar overall to Neo Genesis in how difficult it is to grade. It's actually brought up quite a lot by the percentage of the Shining Magikarp and Gyarados. If you take those out, it would actually be a harder to grade set than Neo Genesis. As it stands right now, it's very similar. It's also in that 13% range overall, but Ampharos is one of the most difficult ones among those. Very, very slightly more difficult to grade is the Blissey in the set, actually the number 2 right after this, and there are 10 of these in population right now, and it is a 5.29% chance. So the reason why the percentage is lower but the population is higher is that there's also more 9s in the population that outweighs the Ampharos very, very slightly. So yeah, still a very difficult card to grade. Again, you can see on screen that it is a silver border and there's lots of it. So again, these are just easy ways that people can see imperfections as the grader, much more so than other Pokemon cards. What would a top 6 be without a mention of Charizard? The Legendary Collection Charizard has only a 4.98% chance to be that PSA 10, and there are only 12 in the pop report right now. Very, very tricky card to grade. We do know that previous Charizards in other sets, because of course this is like the 6th time that the Charizard of this artwork has been printed, we do know that things like Shadowless Zard and Unlimited Zard actually do have pretty awkward ratios, so there is history of this card being awkward to grade. There's a lot of yellows in there with the flames and stuff like that, so there's a good portion of the card that is holographic that can get scratched and will really show up quite awkwardly, but there's something about the Legendary Collection that's had a slightly lower print quality. It's actually one of the lowest that we have on the list at just an 11.7%. For the overall average of holographic. So it's not only Charizard that's got a little bit of a tough time, there are some others in there as well, but Charizard is the lowest in the Legendary Collection of just that 4.98%. Next up, we have a really strange one, because this is a card that you can not only get in the set, but you can also get this in a theme deck, and still there's only 8 PSA 10s in the population. That is going to be base set 2 Wigglytuff, of all things. Now, we do know that Wigglytuff from Jungle is also one of the lowest pop cards. Not the lowest from Jungle First Edition. I think it's the 2nd lowest, just behind Clefable. But it's actually the base set 2 one which is having the most trouble here. Only a 4.49% of the mint copies out there are PSA 10s. So yeah, again, it's just a common offender where there's lots of silvery border going on, and it's a colorless, which can also highlight things like borders being off and stuff like that. So it feels like colorless Pokemon in general have a tough rap. We know that things like Chanseys and Clefables and Dragonairs, even these sorts of cards, find it harder to be graded. Giovanni's Persian's another great example. And Wigglytuff from base set 2 seems to be that flagship Pokemon as the main offender here. So we've made it to number 1, and we are going back to the start with Neo Genesis First Edition. For any of you paying attention, I did say there was another one on this list, and this time it's going to be Sloking. Sloking is a mere 3.65% of the mint conditions are PSA 10s, and there are only 10 in the population as of recording right now. It's a fairly difficult set to grade in general. There's centering issues all the time on Neo Genesis cards, and again, you know, there's just a huge amount of holographic on this card. There's a lot of that silver going on as well. So easy to see surface scratches or dusting or anything like that. Just get that a little bit on the card and it's already just docked immediately. So if you do have yourself a PSA 10 Sloking, good for you. It is the most difficult card to grade right now from the Wizards of the Coast era. Now, just to round out the video with my closing thoughts, I do think these ratios are going to be really important going forward. Basically, any Pokemon with a sub 10% ratio is going to be quite a difficult card to grade from most sets. And I will say that, surprisingly, the Shadowless base set is the most difficult on average set to grade from that PSA 9 to 10 ratio. So even though they didn't feature on this list, their average is pretty difficult to grade. So be careful when you are opening Shadowless base set packs. They're much more likely to be 9s than they are 10s. And for that final bit of trivia, the 2 Pokemon that actually have currently the lowest graded population did not feature on our list today. It's actually Dark Blastoise from the Legendary Collection, as well as Skarmory from Expedition, both of which have only 6 in the PSA population right now. So those are the fewest, the lowest population 10s out there right now. Some of the ones on the list already are very close to that range where there's 8 and 10 copies in there. So equally difficult to find in the wild, but it's even less likely that there's going to be more of these in the future. I hope you did enjoy my deep dive into the data. I'm going to put an Excel spreadsheet down below of the data that I sort of looked at today. Of course, this is ever changing as the pop reports do change, but this should give you a really good indicator of what are the most difficult to grade cards in the set, as well as what are the lowest population right now. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It has been Joe from Silphco Consultancy, and I'll see you guys in another video soon. Cheers.